This week, we're talking about rupture and repair.
You are listening to Love Your Job Before You Leave It, the podcast for ambitious, high-achieving women who are ready to stop feeling stressed about work and kiss burnout goodbye forever. Whether you're starting a business or staying in your day job, this show will give you the coaching and guidance you need to start loving your work today. Here's your host, career coach Corey Lynn.
Hey, y'all. Happy Wednesday. It's so nice to talk to you. I know that from your experience, we talk every week, but from my experience, I'm just coming back from holiday vacation and I took a few weeks off of podcasting and work and just kind of chilled. Honestly, I didn't do a lot of anything. I didn't plan a lot of social stuff. I did a few social things, but mostly I just slept like 10 hours a night, took long walks, made some food, ate a lot of food. It was lovely. It was a really fun time. And today is my first official day back at work when I'm recording this. And it's the new year and there's all like the new year stuff going on. And that's why I wanted to record this podcast for you to talk about rupture and repair. And we're going to talk about rupture and repair in a few different ways. But one of the things that I think is really relevant to it being January and the beginning of a new year and a time when a lot of people try to start new habits or add new things to their lives or like do things differently is this idea of rupture and repair. So for me and for a lot of my clients, we want to do things perfectly. We want all kinds of stuff to happen perfectly. There's just something very alluring about that idea that it can like all go well and all be perfect. And usually what's alluring about it is that we'll be proud of ourselves. We'll be able to think nice things about ourselves. It'll all finally be working. We'll get to feel worthy, blah, blah, blah. So I think that this is an important topic any time of year, but I think the new year is an especially good time to talk about it because of the way that we start things in the new year, or sometimes we like have this like vision of like what the new year is going to be like or who we're going to be in the new year. And then a little bit into the new year, you know, life starts lifing and things get imperfect. And sometimes we just get so frustrated that things aren't as perfect as we wanted them to be, that then we just get the fuck it effect and like stop doing it or give up on it or whatever. And so that's why I thought that this would be a really perfect time to talk about this. So this concept, rupture and repair, basically the idea is that things will go wrong. Things will go wrong. Things will go badly. People are not always going to do what we want them to do. We're not always going to do what we want ourselves to do or what we think we should do. All of us in life make mistakes, right? And even when we do try so hard to be perfect, sometimes in retrospect, we get new information and it really throws a different light on what we've done. Or sometimes it's just like, we're not able to do something well, or we're not able to do it perfectly. Or like there was a time a few years ago where, I don't know, Alex was doing like some kind of workout and she injured her ankle and then she like wasn't able to do the workout for a little bit. And I remember at the time I actually asked her if I could record a podcast where I talked about it. And I might have talked about it on a podcast, but I'm not even actually sure if I ever did that. But I know I got her permission. So I feel fine telling y'all about it now. But basically she was so frustrated because like she had this like perfect streak going. And she was so bummed, but like she was injured, right? She wasn't going to be able to keep up the workout, whatever it was. And I remember talking to her about it and saying like, what if there's something better than a perfect record? Like what if having an injury and recovering from the injury and then getting back into the habit, like what if that's better? And I think that's a really wild idea for a lot of us. Like a lot of us, we think like the best thing that we could ever have is like a perfect streak. The best thing we could ever have is a perfect record. But what if it's not? Like, what if it's actually more interesting and more amazing when we, you know, lose track of something, we get an injury, we like fall off the wagon or like whatever the phrase is, and then we come back to it. And like with relationships also, it's like, I think a lot of times, especially with like TV and movies and books, we get this idea that like an amazing relationship is a relationship with no conflict. But relationships have conflict, right? And especially if we're really close to people, in my experience, the closer we are to them, the more conflict we have. And that's just part of it. And like, can you imagine if you had like a marriage or a relationship with a significant other, or even your best friend, and you're like, well, we had a fight, so now it's over, it's ruined. But like, that's how a lot of people treat a lot of things, like a lot of their habits, a lot of their goals. And I do see people treat their relationships like that sometimes, like, and I'm sure I've done it too. So this is like not a dig at all. But what I really want to offer you is like this idea that having the perfect streak isn't the thing to aim for, and that's not like the place to try to get to, because that's just perfectionism and none of us are perfect. And like, what if like the ultimate goal and the ultimate beauty of life is being able to repair, not being able to create something that's perfect? Okay, so how does this apply to you? So this is a podcast about career, and I think career is a big place where rupture and repair is an amazing toolkit to have, because we get into disagreements with people at work. We fuck things up at work. We snap at our boss. We snap at our colleague, right? We make a mistake on a big project. And if we let that mean like everything is ruined and we're fucked, like that makes having a career like a very intense, high stakes, uncomfortable, unpleasant thing to do. Whereas if we see our career as a place where we are able and allowed to have ruptures and then we can repair, then everything is something that can move us forward towards our goals, towards our dreams, and towards like the more advanced skill sets that we're trying to build as we go about growing our career and developing professionally. I think for me, as a recovering perfectionist and a recovering people pleaser, there's so much relief in this idea. There's such a relaxation, a like dropping of my shoulders, a mellowing of my whole energy when I give myself permission to not be perfect, which is so funny because it's not like I was ever perfect anyways. But when I think I have to be, then I'm just like an anxiety roller coaster inside all the time, and everything feels so important and so high stakes, and it's like so difficult to like let life be what it is, since life is, full of ruptures, full of problems, full of mistakes and things that go wrong. When I give myself permission to be imperfect, and when I pitch myself on this idea that the most important thing I can ever do, the most beautiful thing I can ever do is actually to like figure out what to do when things go wrong, and like that is the good thing, that's the good part. There's such a relaxation for me. And that's what I want for you too, because trying to be perfect in your career is exhausting. Trying to be perfect in your career is a recipe for burnout, because you can never do enough. You can never do well enough to create perfection, because that's just not what we do. That's not in the human capacity, right? So this idea of like, oh, it doesn't have to be perfect. And when it's not perfect, when it's inevitably not perfect, I actually have a special skill set for that. I have this skill set of repair. That is such a relief and such a gift. And again, at work, it can be with people that we have relationships with. It could be, with our work, like we make a mistake and then we have to go fix the mistake. That may also involve talking to people about having made the mistake. There's also like rupture and repair when sometimes we choose to like leave an organization or a team. We take a risk, we take a new job, we take a new position, and then we want to circle back. I love the idea that like, just because you leave a team or leave an industry or leave a company, it doesn't mean you could never go back there, because even if there was a rupture when you left, you have the skill set and the ability to repair that and to bring things back together and to create something stronger, more beautiful, more aligned, more in service to you, potentially more in service to the team, more in service to everybody all at once. And it's not about like staying and having that perfect streak of having been on the team for 12 years. Like sometimes you leaving and then repairing or coming back like is the thing that makes that next iteration so beautiful and such a good fit for people. Because as much as we don't like conflict, as much as we don't like rupture, there's so much good information in that. And when we can go to that place, we really can build something that works more deeply for everyone. Because once we admit that what was happening wasn't working, then it opens up the possibilities for what could happen. Okay, so that's work. Now, another place rupture and repair is really useful is like habits, right? Again, at the beginning of the episode, we were talking about like, it's the new year. A lot of people want to do new habits in the new year. New habits or new goals. Guess what? Starting a new habit's fucking hard. that doesn't mean it's not doable. Like, I am the first person to be like, yes, it's possible. Anything's possible. Let's fucking do it. Let's go. But humans, we operate out of habit a lot. And to build a new habit requires skills, and it requires practice and patience. And it often requires lots of fuck ups, which a lot of us don't have a lot of ability to tolerate. So one of the things we work on when you come work with me one-on-one or in my small group is we work on that ability to tolerate when things don't go well, because usually that skill is really important and necessary for anything you want to create that you haven't already created, whether it's getting a new job or getting a promotion or a raise, or, something else in your life in another area that's not work, or like a habit that's not work related. Right? So rupture and repair is so great when you are building that new habit. Like, let's say you want to get up and meditate every day before work. Like, that's the habit you want to build in 2023. And you're like, I'm going to do it every day. And then on January 6th, you accidentally slept through your alarm and you didn't do it. Right? So if you're like in a perfectionist mindset about it, you're like, well, it's ruined. It's all ruined. Like, everything's ruined. 2023 is ruined. January is ruined. Versus like, oh, I had a rupture in my habit and I'm just going to repair and I'm going to bring myself back to the habit, and I'm not going to go into the fuck it effect. I'm just going to be like, yeah, great. That's part of it. So repair is a skill set and it's something that we do, but it's also a mindset in that it's about letting things be imperfect and still believing that they can be good, beautiful, beneficial, all those other words that we like, all those other things that we're craving in our life. Everything we want from perfection, I think, is actually available through repair, since life is full of fucking ruptures all of the time. Okay, let's talk about another area this tool set is really useful, and that's in personal relationships. Work relationships are relationships and they're still hard, but I think personal relationships often have a lot more rupture because we come home after working all day and we're like kind of tired, maybe kind of cranky. Like, I don't know about you, but for me, like the person I actually have the most ruptures with is my significant other, Alex, because like we live together and we see each other all the time. We see each other when we're tired and when we're sick and when we're cranky. So we have a lot of ruptures, and being in a relationship with Alex for like 5.5 years now has really been a masterclass in like how to repair from a rupture and how to build a relationship that's even more beautiful for having had the rupture, versus like telling myself that the most beautiful version of our relationship is the one where we'd never had a fight yet. Like, I just don't like that sales pitch because, first of all, that part of the relationship only lasted for like 2 months. And second of all, like, it just doesn't feel like that includes any space for my full humanity, Alex's full humanity, like the full experience of what it means to be a human. So whatever your personal relationships are, whether it's a significant other, maybe your family of origin, friends, children, your parents, rupture and repair is a great tool to be able to use. I mean, the rupture part's not the tool. Like, that's just life. But the repair part of the tool and like understanding rupture as like not a problem. Like, it's a problem, but it's not a problem. It's a problem in that like it's maybe something you don't want to have for forever, but it's not a problem in that it is part of what it means to like live a human life and something that is manageable and handleable. And we have a skill set for that. So what I want you to take away from this podcast basically is the idea that things don't have to be perfect to be the best version of themselves. Things don't have to be perfect to be good. Things don't have to be perfect to be beautiful. Things don't have to be perfect to be meaningful and wonderful, right? I so want for you to have a wildly satisfying life and career. And since I believe that ruptures are part of life, I believe that learning the skill of repair is essential, and that that's something that's going to help you take the human life you have and have a wildly wonderful experience of it. So for today's podcast, we're not going to get into the nuts and bolts of how to actually repair. We have a whole other episode about apologies, and we have lots of episodes like connection orientation, about like getting in touch with like what you actually want to create in a situation and how to create it. And I think those apply to situations where there have been ruptures too. And apologizing is one way to do a repair, and reorienting to connection or whatever it is you want to be oriented to is another way to move towards repair. But the key takeaway for this episode really is just that things don't have to be perfect to be perfect, right? So like what I mean there is they don't have to be perfect in that like no ruptures have ever happened to be perfect in the like delicious, deeply satisfying thing that's going to like be so wonderful for your life. And if this idea is really thrilling and if this idea is really like relieving, and the idea that you can be imperfect in your career and still have not just a good career, but a spectacular career, and the idea that you can be imperfect in your personal life and not have just like an okay personal life, but a spectacular personal life, if that really lights you up, then I want to invite you to come take this conversation deeper with me by hopping on a consult call with me where we can talk about working together one-on-one or working together in my small group, so that you can really talk through with me what that would look like for you and what would be possible for you when you coach with me and when you learn these skills really deeply and how to apply them in your life. All right, that's what I have for y'all this week. Have a lovely week, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Love Your Job Before You Leave It. We'll have another episode for you next week. And in the meantime, if you're feeling super fired up, head on over to CoreyLynn.com for more guidance and resources.